Ladies and gentle gamers, welcome back to Be Determined. Today we have yet another alpha open, and this time it is with tier 5 Tarantula as well as an entire rework to the entirety of Tarantula Slayer. So if you guys end up enjoying, make sure to drop a like, smash the sub button, and let's jump into it. So if we do /Centauri here, you will notice all of the update items are in this menu, and we're going to go over all of them. So to start off, the Scorpion foil has received a revamp. It no longer has like the weird charges system that it used to, but it does have a new ability that makes it not only heal you, but also make your next attack within the next 20 seconds do 250% extra damage. Plus, it is now able to be dungeonized. So it looks like the admins are intending for this to be used in M7 and other dungeons to be able to deal a bit more damage. So this should help make things quite a bit easier when it comes to damage in dungeons and just elsewhere in general. So it will probably also be used in Spider Slayer. Of course, I'm planning on using mine here because 250% extra damage is pretty substantial. But next up, we have the Recluse Fang and its brand new upgrades, the Tarantula Fang and the Sting. So you can see as you upgrade it, it does more damage against spiders specifically and also gets more combat wisdom. So at base, it is 150% damage and 30 combat wisdom, and then it upgrades to 200% damage and 45 combat wisdom, and finally 250% damage, and it keeps the 45 combat wisdom. Now I believe it is currently bugged because you can see my Estrella does 377 damage here and the Sting does 180, but it should be doing 250% extra against spiders. But if I use the Sting here, it's doing 600,000, 700,000 around that area, 800,000 on that hit, 800,000. So as of course I get my strikes up, is going to do more. But you'll notice if I just click with the Estrella right here, I'm doing 1.2 million and 1.5 million that time, 1.5 million. So I think either the damage is bugged or it needs a buff, because there's no reason Estrella should be doing more damage than this thing. But you'll notice the recipe for Recluse Fang has been made a little bit cheaper, and I've just been kicked. That sucks because I just spent over an hour trying to get into the alpha. Well, I guess we'll do the rest here in the patch notes menu. They have added the Vial of Venom and Festering Maggot. So the Vial of Venom is from Tarantula Slayer, and it's going to give you a bit of extra crit damage as well as some extra damage against Spider Slayer specifically. And I think it's just actually arachnal damage, so it's going to be against spiders in general. And then the Festering Maggot is the same thing, except it's going to be for the undead mobs. So you'll be able to do a bit more damage against undead mobs, as well as get some extra permanent defense from that one. And like most consumables, they can be consumed up to 5 times. They're a somewhat rare drop. I believe it was about 600,000 RNG meter for each of them, maybe 700,000. So it is going to be a little bit pricey probably to get your hands on these. They've also added the Primordial Armor, which is an upgraded version of the Tarantula armor, which now has gemstone slots as well. But this is basically going to be similar to what Final Destination is for E-Man Slayer. It's what you'll use when you're first starting out, but once you get to the point where you're running Kudra and you've got access to Crimson or Aurora, you'll probably be running those sets instead of this. There is also a new mosquito pet, which buffs pest vinyls and gives sugarcane fortune, and buffs the Primordial, which we'll talk about in a moment. It's basically the new best in slot belt for most scenarios, but that's from Spider Slayer 8. From Spider Slayer 7, you do also get a shriveled necklace, which gives magic find and combat wisdom while in the spider's den. I imagine it'll probably give more magic finds, or maybe just the combat wisdom will be enough to make it worth using over the rift necklace, at least for this in particular. There's also the ensnared snail, which is just Bane of Arthropod 7, and the new Tarantula ring, which is an upgraded version of the Tarantula talisman. This does cost a mosquito, a digested mosquito, to upgrade from the Tarantula talisman to the Tarantula ring. So you're going to want to make sure you've got one of those saved up for when the update drops. But then at Spider Slayer 8, you unlock the Primordial, a new legendary belt that gives players a 1% chance to cocoon enemies upon killing them. So basically it'll revive an enemy 1% of the time so that you can kill it again. The idea of this is to just make your bestiary grind easier, because it doesn't work on dungeons or on mini bosses and bosses in dungeons. And it is buffed by the legendary mosquito pet, so it can get a 2% chance to make this happen. But it does require one of the new drops from the boss, which I believe is the equivalent of the Warden Heart for Spider Slayer. So it's going to be a little bit of a grind to get. I'm not sure how great this ability is really going to be, but I think the stats on the item actually alone should make it worth it. Then you also get access to the Sting, which is the upgraded Recluse Fang that we talked about earlier. Again, I don't know if it's bugged right now, but it really doesn't do that much damage, so really not worth going for unless it is bugged. But considering how expensive its recipe is as well, it's got a pretty low drop chance for the item you need to craft it. It's going to be a grind to get. Once you unlock Spider Slayer 9, you get access to the T12 Tarantula minion, which you can buy from the bartender. I did get to check this before it closed. It is going to cost like a stack of Tarantula silk to be able to get your hands on right here. So yeah, it should be about 2 million coins and then a stack of Tarantula silk. In other changes, they did also change the mosquito bow, so it's now a short bow. And it gives a ridiculous amount of healing, so probably going to get nerfed for that specifically, but it's really just a bow with a healing ability. That's the main use of it. They also changed the Spider Slayer mixin to give crit damage instead of the dodge passive that it had before, so that's pretty nice. But that's about it when it comes to items. Let's talk about the actual boss fight itself. So the T1 Broodfather's ability is that it will sometimes jump behind you, and attacks from behind will deal 50% extra damage. T2 is the same, but it does 75% extra damage from behind, and it will also start to reduce your healing and your speed. So it reduces your healing by 25% at its base, and then it starts reducing your speed every 5th hit. So I think this is going to just be kind of a damage debuff for Warden Helmet is the main reason for this, and also it is kind of a little clunky with all the webs that it spawns in the later tiers. Speaking of which, at tier 3 it starts with the Web of Lies ability that it will do at 2/3 and 1/3 health. So basically it's similar to E-Man Slayer, where it'll become invulnerable once it gets to these health barriers, and it will spawn a 5x5 area of webs on the ground that you'll have to clear with your Recluse Fang, or you can actually just not clear these. The main thing you do want to clear is the 2 egg sacs that it will spawn in the air above itself. Now, the idea the admins had is that you would use tarantula boots to jump to these, which is not the meta at all from my experience. You can reach them just with the rabbit potion from God Pot. So as long as you have a God potion on, you should be able to reach these egg sacs and just jump up and break them. They have like 5 health each, so you just jump and spam click them until they disappear. If you wait too long, I think it's like 12 or 15 seconds, then it will spawn a couple spiders, but then you can just basically one tap them, and then the boss fight will resume as usual. Now when we get to T4, things get a little bit more interesting, because before this point I think the meta will definitely be running mage, but at T4 he gets an ability where once he gets to half health, he is immune to magic damage. So becomes immune to magic damage for the rest of the fight, and he'll also release a horde of bats that will start taking a percentage of your max health for each bat that's alive. So I think it spawns up to 5 bats at a time, and they'll be doing 5% of your health as AoE per second. So you're going to want to make sure you take care of them. The best way to take care of them will be with a magic weapon, preferably Hyperion, but Spirit Scepter works just fine as well. But that magic damage won't work on the boss itself, it just works on the bat. So you'll have to start actually using melee damage to take care of the boss himself. Now, when we get up to the T5, this one's of course a step above the rest. It has 10 million health, and he does a crap ton of DPS. He's got the same abilities as the previous ones, just stacked up a bit. Every tier gets more damage from the back, but this one does 150% damage from behind, and it will reduce your healing by 100%. So you're basically going to be getting very little natural healing. You have to make sure you're keeping yourself alive with like Wand of Atonement, things like that. And when he gets to the Web of Lies section, he will spawn 3 egg sacs instead of 2 like the T4s. So it makes things a little more interesting when it comes to that. Plus the bats will be doing twice the amount of damage they do at T4, so they'll be doing 2% per. So when he spawns all 5 of them, they'll be taking 10% of your damage per second until you clear them. So again, using a magic weapon for that is a good idea. And then once you kill him, he respawns with double the health and double the damage per second, but he stops doing all of these abilities. So he's basically just a giant punching bag of 20 million health that you'll have to just clear as fast as you can. Now again, I think the meta for this is going to be melee. You'll still want to use your hype to kind of clear out the bats, of course, and to be making sure that you're getting some healing between the 100% healing reduction. Now, when I was fighting this thing, I wasn't paying attention to my health at all, and I did almost die a couple times. So it is going to be a little bit of something to keep your eye on. It's definitely a step above T5 revs, but leaves room for something to be even harder with T5s of E-Man, Blaze, and Spins in the future. But that's everything that I have for you guys today, so make sure to let me know what you think in the comments. I will make a full in-depth video once it drops on the main server and I can actually play it while recording. But all in all, the Slayer looks like fun. I enjoyed it while I was playing it in research for this video, so unfortunately didn't get to show all of it, but I am looking forward to this coming to the main. Only thing I'm really kind of disappointed by was it's not in the patch notes. I didn't get time to check, but it doesn't seem like there is a Slayer level 10. So I was hoping they'd add Slayer level 10 with this, but it doesn't seem like that's there. But anyways, thank you so much for watching to the end. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.